for example, the code that processes the incoming data, email, XML, Office document, and industry-specific custom data exchange format. So the attack also will be different in this kind of network. Interface, SQL, and web forms. An employee with access to sensitive information are vulnerable to a social engineering attack. We will look at what is a social engineering attack. That is quite interesting. Okay. Attack surface can be categorized in the following way. If we look at it, the first one is the network attack surface. This category refers to vulnerability over an enterprise network, wide area network. This one all we will see in our Cisco packet tracer slides. Okay. The internet included in these categories are network protocol vulnerability, such as those used for a denial of service attack, disruption of communication links, and various forms of intruder attack. Later we will see. The software attack surface refers to vulnerabilities in application utility or operating system code. A particular focus in these categories is web server software, for example. Okay, the human attack surface refers to vulnerabilities created by the personnel or outsiders, such as social engineering, human error, and trusted insiders, for example. So the attack surface analysis is basically useful for accessing the scale and the severity of the threats to a system. A systematic analysis of point of vulnerability makes the developers and security analysts aware of where security mechanisms are required. So that is very important. So once an attack surface is defined, designer may be able to find the ways to make the surface smaller, thus making the task of adversary more difficult. For the attacker, should be more difficult to attack such system. So the attack surface also provides the guidance on setting the priorities for testing, strengthening security measures, or modifying the services or application. So that is a reason that why we need the security surface. So here you can see, as illustrated in this figure, the use of layering or defense in depth and attack surface reduction, which complement each other in mitigating the security risk. So here you can look at the layering, and here you can see the attack surface. If the surface is larger, so the medium security risk compared to the low security risk, we can say, all right. And also here, if the layering is shallow, or if deep, and we have the shallow one, and then here we have the high security risk and medium security risk as well. Okay. uh, an attack tree is branching hierarchical data structures that represent a set of potential techniques for exploiting the security vulnerabilities. So the security incident that is the goal of the attack is represented as the root of the node or of the tree, and the ways that an attacker could reach the goal are iteratively and incrementally represented as a branches or subnodes of the tree. So each subnode defines a subgoal, and each subgoal may have its own set of the further subgoals, and etc. Okay. So the final nodes on the paths outward from the root, that is the leaf nodes, represent different way to initiate the attack. So each node other than a leaf is either an AND node or an OR node. We call it AND node or node. Okay. So to achieve the goal represented by an AND node, the subgoals represented by all of that node subnodes must be achieved. You know the meaning of and or. So uh, that is a kind of the discrete mathematics, if you have read that. So the motivation for the use of the attack tree, why we need to know about the attack tree, is to effectively exploit the information available on attack patterns. So The organizations such as CERT, that later we will see, CERT, publish the security advisories that have enabled the development of a body of knowledge about the both general attack strategy and specific attack patterns. So that can be used by the security analysis. So can use the attack tree to document the security attacks in a very good and structured form that reveals the key vulnerabilities. So the attack tree can guide both the design of system and application and the choice and strengths of countermeasures. So it might look a little bit complex, but it's very, very useful in fact. So if you look at the figure 1.4 is based on is an example of an attack tree. So analysis for an internet banking authentication application, which is quite interesting. So the root of the tree is the objective of the attacker. Okay, is the objective of the attacker, which is to compromise a user account. So they're trying to find the information of the user account. All right, the shaded boxes on the tree are the leaf node, which represent the events. All right, and some more information that this is an example, okay, of the attack tree. So you can have a look on it and get some more information about that. Okay. So a model for much of what we will be discussing is captured in very general terms in figure 1.5. So that is a model for network security. A message is to be transferred from one party to another across some sort of internet services. So the two parties who are the principals in these transactions must cooperate for the exchange to take place. So a logical information channel established by defining a route through the internet from the source to destination. Okay. So the security aspects come into play when it is necessary or desirable to protect the information transmission from an opponent who may represent a threat to confidentiality, authenticity, and so on. So all of the techniques for providing security have two components. Okay. So the first one is a security related transformation. All right. So from the sender side and some secret information shared by the two principals. Okay. That is an example of this kind. So the opponent is here, the trusted third party, for example, secret information distributor and so on. So this kind of key will be provided to them and the data will be authenticated from the sender to the recipient. Okay, so this general model shows that there are four basic tasks in designing a particular security service. So that is very important to be notified, all right, to be noticed. Design an algorithm for performing the security related transformation. The second one, generate the secret information. Third one, to develop the methods for the distribution and sharing of the secret information. Here we call it by the third party, trusted third party. And finally, specify a protocol to be used by the two principals that make use of the security algorithm. So later we will see when we want to do the encryption, of course we need the key and someone must generate the information, secret information, someone must, based on the algorithm. So we need to design algorithm, generate the secret information, develop a methods of how basically we can distribute this kind of information, and also the protocol that can be used by sender and receiver, okay, to encrypt and decrypt the data. That is very important. So if you look at the parts 1 and 2, okay, here we have the opponent. This is the access channel, gatekeeper function, and also here is the data, so the information system. This is a network access security model, in fact. Okay. All right. Another type of unwanted access is the placement in a computer system of logical that exploit the vulnerability in the system, and that can, affect the application program as well as utility programs such as editor, compilers. So the programs can present two kind of threats here. So the first one is information access threat, and the second one is service threats. Okay. So for the first one, the information access threats intercept or modify the data on behalf of user who should not have access to that data. For the service threats, they exploit the services flows in computer to inhibit use by the legitimate user. So viruses and worms are two examples of software attack, I can say here. Such attack can be introduced into a system by means of a disk that contains that virus or that software. This also can be inserted into a two system across a network, right? Uh, we call it as a network security, that we should be aware of that as well. Okay. So that is two standards, the NIST and ISOC. We don't want to go through this one. Uh, you can look at it yourself, and here is the chapter summary. So computer security concept, we look at the definition, examples, challenges, the OSI security architecture. Then we discuss about the security attacks, passive and active. The models for network security, standards, security services, some of the important services and mechanism, and also the attack surveys, attack trees. Also we discuss in details. So here we finish our lecture one, in fact. If you have any question, guys, you can ask me during our online class.